From the studios of the Pemberton Township Board of Education's Channel 14, it's time to find out what's cooking. Here now is the head of the Food Services Department at Pemberton Township High School and your host, Tim Paroli.
Hello, welcome to another edition of What's Cooking. I'm Tim Paroli, and we're going to show you how to prepare the other white meat. Today we're going to show you how to prepare pork tenderloins. It's been called a lot of things. Lately it's the other white meat. We're trying to get people to eat a little more of it. We're going to tell you all about it. The cut that we're buying today is a pork tenderloin, and we're going to show you what they look like. Right here we have 2 packages, 2 each tenderloins. The tenderloin is exactly what it sounds like. First of all, it's pork, so we know where it's coming from. It's the tenderloin. If you've ever eaten a pork chop and it's got that little tiny circle of real tenderloin meat next to it, this is what it is. These are pulled from the entire loin before any chops are cut, and we're going to show you just how they look. However, in a package, I want you to get an idea what they look like. They're in a package like that, hardly any fat. Look at that. Really nice. And you know what? They're completely boneless. So if you are not that adept at butchering anything, or you're kind of afraid to try something, you cannot ruin these. Isn't that wonderful? You cannot ruin these. First of all, they're going to be tender no matter what you do to them, aside from completely incinerating them. So the nice thing about them is they're tiny. They cook rather quickly, so they are going to save us a lot of time. They're very easy to figure out how to slice because they grow this way, we slice them the other way. And we're going to show you how to prepare these to roast them. All you're going to do is take a roast pan. You're going to splash a little oil in it. Now, why are we adding fat to something? The reason we are is because these tenderloins have absolutely no fat on them, or they won't when we're done with them. What they're going to have, if you notice, we'll take this tenderloin. I'll give you a nice white board to look at. There's the tenderloin. Only one side of this tenderloin is going to have a mark of fat on it, and it's going to be right here. So I'm going to show you. See that light area right there? I'm going to turn it over. If you notice, nowhere else is there anything on there. That we want to remove. If we're going to roast that, there's a light skin on there. We pull that off. Then we are going to take a knife, and we're going to just, holding it back here, we're going to push the knife this way. Just put the tip of the knife underneath that very thin skin there, and just pull the knife down. Once that's cut loose, you're going to pick that up and cut it the other way. Now we're going to clean 2 of these for you so you get to see how to get these ready to roast. Just like that. Now you have that whole piece all ready to roast right there, and we're going to just take that and put that into the roast pan. Just like that. Not too difficult. Now we're going to take the other one, and we're going to look again at the only light part on it, and we're going to trim that off. So here we go. We take that and just cut that skin right down. And we have that ready now to roast. The reason that we're taking that off, since that is the only part on there, the rest of this is all just a nice clear muscle. We don't want any membrane on the outside that's going to cook a lot sooner than the rest, and it's going to pull and curl that up. We don't want that to happen. So we take those, we put them in a pan, clean up my mess, and then we're going to season these. And all we're going to do with these is dust them with a little bit of pepper, a little bit of salt, and we're going to put some garlic powder over them. And the reason that we're using the garlic powder is so that we can get a nice, even distribution of a real light garlic flavor throughout that roast. So we go just like that, and as the juices come out of that, they're going to baste in garlic. So that's how we're going to have this prepared. This would go over to an oven, just like we're doing. Of course, this oven today is off because even though they would only take us about an hour to cook, what I did was I took the liberty of cooking 2 tenderloins off for you ahead of time. They are right here, and what we're going to do is take those out of the pan that I have here, and I'm going to show you that I took one and cut it in half. And I took the other one, and I want to turn my board over for you because I had a raw product on here. We don't want to put it on the same side. There we go. We take them out, and they are our 2 tenderloins. Now they were in an oven, and they only had to cook for about a half hour, and then they just are waiting for us so that we can use them. So there's our tenderloins, and I'm going to throw them into a pan, and we're going to use them a little bit later on. So they're in the pan, they're back here, out of the way. What we have now is the pan that they were roasted in, and I want you to take a look at the inside of that pan. Everything that when that cooked in there, anything that came off of the tenderloin, see it, it's all stuck to the pan. So what we're going to do is we're going to strike up a little bit of a fire here, and we're going to clean out the pan. But what we're going to take out of the pan is all the juices that went in there and dried up. We're going to cook them back off again. And I'm going to splash that with just a tiny bit of wine, and I really mean just a tiny bit. We're going to shake that around, and I'm going to add some water to this. We're just going to put some water right in that roast pan. Now, this is a small roast pan. The roasts I have are very small. So we've got a little bit of water in there. Now, if you want to bump up the flavor just a little bit, and you've been watching the program, you've been cooking chickens, and you've got chicken stock can be added anytime to a pork food because the pork will overpower that. So we're going to put half of our chicken right in there. And we're going to deglaze this pan. All that means is we're going to cook everything that was on the bottom of the pan. We're going to take it off. So that's going to deglaze. I'm going to lower that fire just a little bit. And that's going to deglaze while we continue to show you other things that we're going to do with our pork tenderloins. We have the other 2 pork tenderloins here. I'm going to take them out, and we're going to cut these up for medallions. So we just cut them out of the bag. I'll leave them on that tray. And all we're going to do, just like in the beginning, is take that little bit of white tissue off of there. And remember, we're going to show you today another sauté dish. So you already know, since you're one of our faithful watchers, that means we're going to cook these very quickly. And we're going to make these into medallions. And all that means is a round, flattened, clear piece of meat. So we've just cut that just opposite the way it grows. And I'm cutting them approximately 1/2 of an inch thick. And we're going to go right on down. Boom, 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 just like that. So that's all set. All right. Then we're going to just stand them up. In other words, we're standing them the way they grew, we're standing them up. And you will be able to see when you have your medallions cut, you will be able to look right in there at those little fibers, and you'll see how they're held together. And you'll notice in a tenderloin like this that there is very little flecking or marbling in there. And that lets you know that there is hardly any fat, and that is something that we're interested in if we don't want a lot of fat in there. Now let me find my little mallet here, and this one is really a tiny mallet. Most of the time for veal or for chicken, commercially, we would use one that's a lot larger. But for doing a tenderloin, all we have to do is gently, I'm only using the side of this. I'm not going to use the toothy part there. You just give that just a little smack there. And I'm going to turn it over, just like that. Now, if you watch and you can see closely how we hit these, you'll see how they're going to change in size. As I hit them, I drag the mallet. And you can see that they're flattening right out. And you don't even have to turn them over. You just hit them and drag them just a little bit. And all I want to do is reduce them from that 1/2 inch down to about 1/4 of an inch. They'll also get a lot flatter and a lot larger. So that's what we're doing. There we go. Now we have our meat for our sauté dish all ready to go. I'm going to take a look now at our roasting pan, because now that is just about beginning to boil. And if you can, as I stir this, you'll notice it's not all crunchy on the bottom anymore. That is all softened up, and we have got a real nice stock now, or juice from the pork tenderloin. And that's going to be used over our sliced tenderloins. So we stir that around, and we're going to check the flavor of that to see how that is. The reason we're going to check the flavor is because we had a lot of the seasoning on the top of the tenderloin. A lot of that bubbled out and ran over, and we want to see how the seasoning is for what we have. And as usual, it's kind of flat. In a roast pan, the taste is there, but it's flat. So what we want to do now is bring out some of that flavor. So we're going to put some black pepper in here, because this is going to be a very robust and strong kind of a pan gravy for that. I'm going to add to that some chicken base. I'm not adding any other base but the chicken to it. Remember, we use chicken stock, and that will go well with our pork. The pork flavor roasted will overpower that chicken base. And all that is the same as a bouillon cube. However, it is very, very low in salt. So I'm going to give that a stir. We've got a real nice, rich color. And the bottom of that pan is nice and clean. So that's what we wanted to do. It's not just that we're cleaning the pan. What we're doing is removing all of the flavor that came off of the roast, and we have a nice juice now for that. And that's really good. That's going to be nice. The reason that a pan gravy complements the roast so well is because the juices from the roast itself are what we're using. And you can see it's got a real nice dark color, and that's going to go really well when we slice up our tenderloins. So I've got our saute ready to go. We're going to set up for a saute dish that's next. When you come back, we're going to have a nice dish all ready. It's going to be a sliced tenderloin. We're going to serve that with our pan juices. We're not going to thicken that like we have, because we're going to cut out on some of the calories. It's going to be served in a natural juice, nice and light, very easy, very, very delicious. The saute dish that we're going to make, on the other hand, is going to be very, very heavy. That's going to be a Normandy, and that's what we're going to use these medallions for. So we're taking our medallions, and I'm reaching back, grabbing our pan, and what we're going to do is we're going to dredge these in flour, and once they're dredged, I'm going to have that all set, and we're going to cut up our other vegetables. So you come right back after watching this, because we're going to also show you a potato pancake.
Drunk driving doesn't just kill drunk drivers. Next time your friend insists on driving drunk, do whatever it takes to stop him.
Welcome back. What we are going to do now is let our pork tenderloins sit in that juice over a very low fire till it's time to serve, hopefully a couple minutes before the end of the program. We're going to prepare something that goes very well with a roast. And rather than the same old fare, a plain old potato, we're going to give you something a little different, and it's very easy. All you need is a potato and an onion, an egg or two, a little bit of flour, and you're in business. So what we're going to do is, right here into this bowl, we're going to grate some onion. Now what I'm going to do, since I'm going to grate this onion, is I'm only going to cut the stem end of the onion off, and I'm going to leave that little root on the bottom, and that's going to hold that onion together. But I'm going to remove all the rough, dried out layers of the onion, and I'm going to peel off all of that green. Even though that thin green one there, we're going to peel that off, because if we don't, that will never get tender, and also it won't grate. So we want to make sure that we are down as we peel this onion to the tender part of the onion. All right, now I'm going to very gently just trim off only the shelly part, that rough part of that onion off of that root button. And that root button right there, you got a very good view there, is going to hold this onion together. So if you're going to use a little bit of the onion for now and a little for later, leave that little root button intact and you can use this onion. A little bit of green there, we're going to just trim that off of that. So we've got our onion ready to go and it's going to hold together. Now we're going to get rid of all the peelings that we don't need. And we're going to grate some of that. And we're going to grate some onion, and it's about 1/3 onion to 2/3 of the potato. What you want to do, however, is grate the onion first. If onions really bother you, you can put them in the refrigerator and have them nice and cold. The other thing you want to learn to do is to work with the food away from you. Don't work right over top of it, and you'll find that the onion will not bother you as much. And just continue to turn that onion as you grate it, and you'll find it'll grate nice and level. And it's a very quick way to get onion cut real small. If you have trouble hanging on to an onion and trying to cut it with a knife, because you're going to cut it real small for a diced onion, this is a real nice way to do it. Really quick. So that's about half of the onion, and that's all we were going to do with that. And now that onion will hold together, and we can just wrap that with a saran and throw it in the refrigerator till it's time to go. Then we're going to take some potato and just grate that. Oh yeah, skin and all, that's the way to have it. And we just grate that right into that. I have to make sure that we do enough of this because these go pretty fast. There we go. You do the same with the potato too. If you're not preparing for a whole bunch, just grate down what you need, saran the end of that, and you're all set. Now, we're going to get this mixture, we're going to season it, and then we're going to bind it together. I'm just using a rubber spatula to knock out anything that's caught in the grater. And there's our mixture of what we're going to season. And an easy way to learn how to season food, let me put a frying pan on here while I'm showing you this. When you're learning to season food, try to take a look at the food, this amount, and imagine if you were going to sit down and eat the entire batch of it, how you would season that, especially for salt and pepper. Looking at that large amount, season that as if that was one portion of what you were going to eat. And that's how much salt you'd start with. So we're going to double this salt because this is the potato and it's going to have a lot of starch added to it. And we're going to add to this a little bit of white pepper because we want that potato to only be the only thing that we see there is the potato and that little bit of the skin. So we don't want to hide any of that. All right, so there's our mixture. We're going to break an egg into it. That's going to help hold that together. We're going to mix that around. And I'm mixing this before we begin to add any of the flour to this because the salt added to that is going to make the water run out of the potato and the onion. So we mix those seasonings around in there just a little bit. And if you just wait a moment, you'll notice that even while I'm pushing that aside, that water is going to run out of there. So I'm going to make sure my pan is all ready. And I'm going to put a little bit of oil in the pan. And we're going to put in just a little bit of flour that I have right here. Just enough to take up that little bit of moisture that's on the bottom. So we're going to just lightly dust the top of that. Now, we're going to just stir that around. You don't want this too dry. The drier this is, the harder it's going to be to cook. There we go. Cracker meal can be used. You could even put crumbs into this if you wanted. All right, and then right over into our hot pan. And we've got our potatoes. And it's a very different potato to serve. And if you were afraid to make them, you can see how easy they are. Flatten them out in the pan. Make them both the same size. The reason we're doing that is I want them flat so that they will cook and they will be all the way done the same on both, and that when I turn one, I can just go right ahead and turn the other. So that is going to be the potato. So while that's cooking, do you realize how advanced you're getting as a viewer? We're not only are we cooking one thing, we're cooking one and showing you another. We're going to get ready now a little bit of a vegetable dip. And what I want to show you is how we can get these ready. These are very popular if you're dieting or if you're going to be entertaining and you've got some broccoli for your vegetable. If it's beautiful like this to where the color of the broccoli has almost got a blue hue to it, that is excellent broccoli. It should be almost that blue-green on it, and that's just the way you want to have it. You're going to cut them about halfway down, and we're going to begin by turning them upside down, and you can just split those stems in half. Just cut them part way and then pull them apart. Cut them in half again, part way down, and pull them apart, and they'll stay together. And you're going to have, let me grab my pan here, you're going to have some nice spears of broccoli. And we're going to lay them in our pan. All right, so I'll move the pan over here. From the underside, halfway down, and just pull them apart. And you'll notice that the spears will stay together. So we'll cut a couple more. Half, and we only cut halfway down and pull them apart. And we lay them on top of one another till we have a nice little pile of broccoli spears. So we have those. We have a carrot here that I peeled for you. I also want to show you how easy they are to peel. When you're going to peel a carrot, lay the large end of the carrot down on your cutting surface, hold the small end, and most of the time your peeler has two blades. If you just go back and forth, use both blades, roll the carrot, you're not going to have any problem peeling it, and they're going to peel just that quick. So I want you to see that it's very easy to peel. Use both blades of the peeler. We'll throw those over there. And we started with the small end that we held on to. And I like to peel it before I cut it because now I don't have to worry. I had my handle while I peeled it, and we usually cut those ends off anyway. So we cut them off. Then we're going to cut these in half again. Then we're going to take a peek and see how our little potato pancake is doing. Because the edge of that is nice and brown. And they're very crispy. You want them real crispy. I want to make sure this breaks apart real nice. There we go. I'm going to hang on to that and just turn it over. Okay, now they break apart and they look really, really nice. So we're going to let that finish off a little bit, and we're going to continue to cut our veggies. With a carrot, it's kind of difficult to cut. You'll set your knife on the top of the carrot and then put your hand completely flat and push down. And then you're going to turn the carrot on the flat side so that the carrot itself does not rock around. And then you can cut them into the little sticks, and you have your carrot sticks made. So don't be afraid to trim up the carrot. It's very easy to do. So we have our carrot cut into sticks. I have a bowl here of some sour cream, and if you've been watching the program, you've been purchasing a little bit of base, or you can use a couple bouillon cubes. However, the base is better. It's got a lot less salt in it. And we're going to, for that much sour cream, we're going to put that in there, or the equivalent of approximately 3 of the bouillon cubes. That is a lot less expensive than purchasing a mix to prepare that. Then we're going to take our onion, and we're going to cut that nice and thin. And we cut that, and that goes into our bowl. And then we're going to sprinkle that with a little bit of white pepper. And we don't even have to put any salt to that. Those potato cakes are done. They're out of the way. All right. That's ready. We're going to mix that right up. And this is a very fresh vegetable dip. It's also going to be great with these potato pancakes. So you mix that up nice and fresh the day you're going to use it. And we've got a bowl of it all ready to go. So there's our dip. with our veggies. We're going to remove our potato pancakes onto a plate. And then I'm going to take this pan that's nice and hot, and we're going to get that ready for our Normandy. So I've got a real hot pan there, and I'm going to just take the oil right out of it. And there it is. Now I'm going to hide this down here for a little bit later on. And with our hot pan ready to go, I'm going to bring our medallions back. Remember, we cut these and we flattened them out and we dredged them in flour while you were gone. And we're going to saute a few of them off right now. So right back over the fire, because we're going to let this pan get good and hot, and we're going to put them in a little bit of oil. And this is how you can have your food that you're going to cook right before you serve it all ready. These can be dredged up to 20 minutes beforehand, but you could have cut them this morning and had them on a pan already and then dredged them in flour right before they go in. And I'm going to pack these in this pan because these are going to shrink back to the original size, and there's not a lot of fat on them, so we can fill that pan with our medallions, just like that. Now I'm going to take the reserve portion and put them out of the way. We're going to shake these, and you're going to notice that when we saute anything, the juice is going to be pushed through to the top, so we season that. Some salt. These are going to get some black pepper. And I'm going to let that cook for just a moment, and we're going to thinly cut some mushroom, because the mushroom and the red wine is going to be added to this for the sauce to serve it. So a little bit of mushroom, a little red wine, a little bit of raw or unmelted butter, and a little bit of milk, and a little bit of chicken stock, and we're all set. So we turn them over. And we plate them. And what we do now is move them all to one side. And we just cook our veggies right in there. We're only going to need a few in there. And what's going to really get this to cook up faster is going to be as we add our stock to that and our wine to that. And that's all you have to do to prepare your little pork medallions. We're going to slide them to the plate. So we've got our little pork medallions. They're going to go in. We've got our dip. We've got our vegetable. We've got quite a lot of meals, all prepared from one cut of pork tenderloin. Thank you for watching.
They're still around, and these diseases could be life-threatening. Full protection takes around 5 visits for shots, starting by 2 months and ending by age 2. Ask if your baby is up to date on every visit to your doctor. Or if you don't have a doctor, call 1-800-232-2522 to find out where to get your baby shots. Your baby's counting on you.
I can pump high. If I keep pumping, I can go very high. I'm going as high as I was before.
Next time your friend insists on driving drunk, do whatever it takes to stop him.
Slowing down a little, tiny bit.
You're watching
Channel 14.